So if we think about the life cycle of a firm and we compare that to that of a human being, you have conception, gestation, birth, growth, and then death. Nascent entrepreneurship concerns itself with conception through gestation. So it's from that initial aha moment where an individual has an idea, and then it follows them through the gestation process as they gather resources and implement their ideas. And hopefully at the end you have the creation of a new firm. This is a really exciting area of research. So all entrepreneurs at one time or another, whether they succeeded or failed, were nascent entrepreneurs. Our students are nascent entrepreneurs by and large. Unfortunately, most studies, government databases, and even articles in the popular press, they tend to look at firms that already exist and they've already succeeded. And so we don't know as much as I think we should of what's happening before this. It would be as if psychology or medicine only looked at healthy adults. But we know that what happens throughout your childhood and as you mature has profound impacts on adulthood. And the same is true with firms. So it's in the realm of nascent entrepreneurship that we get to see all the creative ways that individuals build their networks, who they know, how they gather resources in unique and sometimes very surprising ways, and also how they experiment to create a new firm. A friend of mine in Boston actually started a number of years ago what is now one of the largest cross-cultural exchange programs. And the way he started that was with $500 of his own money, and he put in an ad into a number of expatriate magazines in other countries, asking them to submit a 1,000-word essay on the value of traveling abroad. Doing so introduced him to hundreds of people who were of like mind, which was his strategy. And I think a very creative way of going about building his business. Very genius and cheap. So within the domain of nascent entrepreneurship, I look at two things. One, I look at what people have, so their resources, and I look at who they are, their identity. So the first resource that I look at is finance. There's an age-old debate in entrepreneurship research as to who bears the risks of entrepreneurial activity. So on the one hand, you have those who say that it is the investors who bear most of the risk as they support entrepreneurs and their ideas. On the other hand, you have those who say it is the entrepreneur or the individual who is shouldering the risk. Well, when we look at nascent entrepreneurs, almost universally, we find that it is the individual, the entrepreneur, who is bearing the risks of entrepreneurial activity. So they're using personal savings, credit cards, as well as asset-backed loans first before they're receiving any external financing. And also we find that the idea of friends, family, and fools, the old adage as to who makes investments, we find that that's really more of a myth than a reality. So here are some statistics of the financing of nascent entrepreneurs in the United States. About 1/4 of nascent entrepreneurs get money from friends and family. But this amount only amounts to about 2.5% of all funding in the United States. 2/3 of nascent entrepreneurs use personal funds, and about 12% are using money from asset-backed loans. So what this means is that the majority of people, when they're first starting out, they're using their own money, whether from savings or credit cards, or from asset-backed loans to start their ventures. Venture capital is about 0.5%, so it's not a common thing at all. Additionally, we find that it's not the amount of money that entrepreneurs, I should say successful nascent entrepreneurs, are putting in. It's not the amount. It's about the skin in the game. So a way of looking at this is that the resource-poor nascent entrepreneur who puts in a large percentage of money relative to their net worth, that is a driver of success. Much more so than, let's say, the rich individual who puts in a small proportion of their own money. But what about net worth? Does an individual's net worth affect whether or not they get into business? Or another way of looking at it is, does personal wealth constrain entrepreneurial entry? When we look at nascent entrepreneurs in the United States, we find that there is a constraint. The top 20% of the wealth distribution, so the wealthiest people who are trying to start businesses, there are 7 successes for every 8 failures. Compare that to the rest of the population. 80% of the population, the poor and middle class, you have 1 success for every 3. So that's a 1-to-3 ratio among 80% of the population, but the top 20%, it's 7-to-8. And lest we say that the businesses or the opportunities are better among the rich, well, when we look at really high impact ventures, and what I mean by that are right out of the starting gate, they're hiring lots of people or they're making lots of money. So looking at number of employees and the amount of revenue, we find that these firms that are outliers are actually scattered throughout the distribution. So you have the very poor who are starting businesses that are hiring lots of people, you have the middle class, and you have the wealthy doing the same thing. The other thing that we find is that it's not necessarily the young and the brilliant who are starting these really high impact ventures. It's the old and experienced. And so what we see is that when there is a lack of financial capital or a lack of net worth, that they're substituting human and social capital for that deficiency in financial capital. So who are these individuals, these nascent entrepreneurs? Who are they? How do they think about the process of starting a business? How do they see themselves? Traditionally, we assume that entrepreneurship is a series of struggles. There are struggles to get resources. There are struggles in building the firm. And then there are struggles once the firm is up and running, or even before, there are struggles against competitors. I think this last part, this idea of struggles against the competition, I think it's, in a lot of ways, is wrong. I think it's always been wrong, to some extent. Because the flip side of this is collaboration. And there are a lot of industries in the United States, particularly in craft industries, such as craft breweries, for example, where collaboration happens as often, if not more, than outright competition. This simultaneous collaboration and competition is called co-opetition. And it's tied both to entrepreneurial strategy as well as the identity of the founder. So co-opetition, we find again, is typical in craft industries. And on the one hand, in these industries, you have founders of small firms who have recently become successful. They hold their competitors to a high standard, and they want them to succeed, even to the extent that they will sometimes share resources and know-how with their competitors. The reason being is that their industry segment in the craft industry is competing with larger firms that are competing on scale. And they need everybody to look good so that the perception of the industry remains strong to consumers. On the other hand, even though there's collaboration, some elements of the industry are zero-sum. There are a limited number of distributors very often, and they compete for access to the distributors. There are a limited number of shelves in a region to where they can actually sell their product. And so for entrepreneurs in these industries, this idea of co-opetition, it becomes, who do I compete with? Who do I cooperate with? And when? So in the process from raw material all the way to finished product, who do I compete with and how become very important questions. So what does all of this mean for students? So there are a number of misconceptions. Relating to finance, number one, a lot of students assume that it takes a lot of money to start a business. The reality is, when we look at nascent entrepreneurs, that on average it takes between $5,000 and $25,000, and that usually is coming from personal savings. So it doesn't take a lot of money to start. The second misconception is again the idea of friends, family, and fools acting as investors. The reality is that you are going to be the one shouldering most of the risk. And so you need to be prepared for that. I often ask the question, how much on average does it take to start your own business? The answer is all of it. When there is a lack of financing, we find that people are substituting their human capital and social capital. What I see very often with students is that they're not taking the time to really develop their social capital. In other words, who they know. So a misconception among students with social capital is that many feel that it's better to know a few individuals very well in a very focused area. The reality is that successful entrepreneurs tend to have a lot of what we would call weak ties or acquaintance type relationships with people in a variety of fields. So my advice to students is, like when you're in line, standing in line, waiting to pay for your groceries, strike up a conversation with the person next to you. A great resource, especially in New York City, is meetup.com. This is a goldmine. It's a great way to find people who are like-minded and interested in the same things, and to go and network and be a part of their organizations. And these are often the future movers and shakers in various industries. A human capital misconception, again, is that it is the young and brilliant who are starting businesses. But in reality, it is the old and experienced who tend to be the most successful. So what this means, I think, is that when you're young, you should dive into something wholeheartedly. Work hard and really have your radar open and attuned to problems that people might be facing within your company. In terms of who are starting businesses in the United States, who are these nascent entrepreneurs? I think there's a misconception that they spend a lot of their time strategizing against competitors. The reality is that you won't have time for that. You are focused on solving problems for your consumer base and making your product better. In fact, again, there's a lot of collaboration among businesses, especially people who are just starting out. So, and industry dynamics are shifting to more cooperative models. So you need to embed yourself and understand who are the people in your industry that you're going to be working with. Finally, when we start looking at the types of opportunities that are out there that nascent entrepreneurs are pursuing, the dominant paradigm is that entrepreneurship is technology. Well, of course, sometimes it is, but there are opportunities abound in the things that we hold, the things that we consume, the things we wear, right? The chair that I'm sitting on. And I think they're underexplored by a lot of students. One thing that I'll tell students, find something that sucks and make it not suck. Honestly, it can be that simple. Find something that's noisy and make it less noisy. Find things that assail your five senses and make them not do that and make them more pleasing. There are many opportunities for this that may not be in the field of technology. And then the final misconception when it comes to opportunities is that students will think that their target market is huge, like age 18 to 50, and there are millions of people in it. This is a problem because it leads to a lack of focus. A very common idea that students in my classes have is either a combination bar/brew pub or a cafe. And they think, well, everyone goes to these places, so that's our target market. Instead, you should think about it in terms of your own identity. So what kind of person do you want to spend your time with? You're going to be working there most of the hours of your day, if not all of them, when you're starting out. So who do you want to be around? Okay? This is going to inform the music that you play, the decor, the plates, everything in your business. And suddenly now, because you've thought about your identity and what you want and who you want to be around, your business has an identity as well. And that's what we want as consumers. We don't want to walk into generic places. So, and hopefully maybe one day that will lead to millions of people, millions of customers.